Hey, Shad here with Speed Addicts, the fastest growing gear site on the web. And today we're going to uncrate the EBC organic brake compound. What's up, SpeedX fan? Before we get into the EBC organic compound brake pads for you, do us both a favor. Subscribe to that Speed Addicts channel. Get up to date. Get educated on all the latest parts and gear coming into the power sports industry. All you have to do is subscribe and we'll take care of the rest. Also, if you'd like to support us here at speedaddicts.com, you could do so by simply shopping with us. And there's going to be a link in the description below that'll get you over to the complete collection of EBC brake pads and rotors. We've got it all from EBC here at Speed Addicts. We've been an authorized dealer for about 2 decades now. So who is EBC? Well, it's our pick for aftermarket brakes, simply put. I've been riding EBC brakes since I can remember, and they are just a high quality producer. The company's founded and based out of the UK, but they do also have a plant and warehouse here in the United States. So if you buy pads from EBC, they are either made in the UK or they're made in the USA, which is fantastic. If it's a rotor, it's probably made at their original plant over in jolly old England. Is that what we call it, producer Matt? Okay. So high quality. Now, can you buy cheaper brake pads and rotors aftermarket? Absolutely, you can get some stuff made in China that's not as good, but will cost less. Do you want to do that with brake pads? I'd recommend you don't. I personally don't. I skimp in other places, but not my brake pads. Okay, now you've decided you want to go with EBC. There are several compounds when it comes to street pads for EBC. Now, most folks who ride on the street are going to look at 2 different pads. They're going to look at these organics, the black label, and then they're going to look at these double H pads. You see that double H there? These are sintered. That means they're made from metal dust, essentially, as opposed to like petrol, resin, and aramid fibers, okay? Metal, more friction, more wear on your rotor, more stopping power, organic, a softer compound that's less friction and suitable for most everyday riders. Okay, so this is essentially an OE replacement. If you're happy with the way your machine stopped with the brakes from the factory, then these will probably do just fine. Now, if you want to step it up, watch our video on the HH pads. That is basically a metal pad, a sintered pad that's going to provide more friction, but it's also going to wear faster and it's going to wear your rotor faster. So don't do it just because you think spending more money and having the hotter brake pad is necessarily a good thing. It's not. Now, some riders like me choose to use a combination, and that's what I'd recommend for most of you folks who are spirited street riders, right? Us weekend warriors. We want to cook in the corners on the weekends, maybe an occasional track day. To you folks, my recommendation is going to be run the organics in the rear. These are typically always enough stopping power for the rear of a motorcycle because the rear tends to lock up faster. And then use the HH pads on the front. That's the winning combination. More braking force and stopping power is required up on the front of the machine. And that's what I typically recommend folks do if they are a spirited street rider. Now, if you have a heavier machine, you notice the stopping power of your OE pads or your organic pads are not really cutting it, then you too may want to step up to that sort of configuration with the HH in the front if you got a really heavy machine. Okay, how do you know that they're organic pads from EBC? They will be black typically, just like you see here, black compound, and then a black radiator plate on the back. And the part number is also a way that you can sort this out. So the HH pads and the organic pads both start with an FA. Okay, so that you'll see an FA in the front, then you'll see a number. If it's an organic pad, there will be no more letters after the number. If it's a sintered pad, you will start to see letters show up like the HH. Got it? So if it's just FA and some digits, and it's black especially, you're working with the organic pads, again, suitable for everyday street riding or the rear of a more spirited setup. What are organic pads made of? I hinted at this earlier. So this is going to be aramid fibers combined with petrol resin. So not metal. If you want more friction, you got to go to a metal pad. Now there's essentially 3 different types of materials that they make, brake pads out of for motorcycles. There's the organic, the least amount of friction. The centered, which is more aggressive. And within that, there's different steps of how centered or how much bite those pads have. And there's track versions and such. And then in the middle, there's a semi-center, semi-metallic pad. And EBC chooses not to make those because those are actually made with like metal thread, 30 to 50% of metal fiber. And EBC doesn't like the way that those perform. They prefer to go all the way to the centered, which is not a thread or wire or something like that. It's actually the centering process takes metallic dust of different types and superheats it to make that, okay? So they think that's the best way to do it. So with EBC, you're either gonna get an organic pad or some type of centered or metallic pad, as we say. Now, if you have questions about what compound you should be running, what part number you need for your machine, our site is pretty handy at that. We have vehicle search, but we also have folks called rider support, and they are there to help you over the phone, email, or live chat with all of your brake pad needs. Again, EBC, a name that we personally trust, I personally trust for many years. Very, very high quality pad in the aftermarket power sports game, be it street, dirt, ATV, UTVs. They got pads for everybody. Check them out at speedaddicts.com. That's it for today. We'll see you next time to find out what's in the crate.